It's only an unpatriotic Nigerian that will want to vote for APC come 2023. Honestly, so many things have gone wrong. And sometimes I wonder if it's that people's eyes are not seeing, the level of decay Nigeria has been pushed into. Honestly, things have gone wrong under this present administration. And it pains my heart when I see some youths still queuing behind APC. I begin to wonder, do these people really believe in Nigeria? Are these people patriotic? Do they really wish Nigeria well? Do they really think about the future of their own children or even their own future? Honestly, it doesn't make sense voting for APC in the forthcoming election. I want you to listen to the various speeches that were given by patriotic Nigerians, people who are not happy with where Nigeria is today and who are hoping that in this 2023 election that a savior will emerge who is going to take Nigeria out of this mess. Please relax, take your time and watch this video and let me know what you think in the comment section. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video and share it with your friends and family. Thank you.
We all gather here. Many of us have changed our money in the bank to dollars. Oh yeah, you are not aware there are certain schools in Nigeria and they charge dollars.
And so wherever he is, I want to tell him thank you for the music, for the consciousness, and for giving us Yeni and Shegun and Shegun and Femi. Thank you so much. Yeah.
And they understand that they can only remain ruling class if we continue to fight each other on the basis of ethnicity and obedient and not obedient and this and that. And any one of them gets into power.
Planning to go to the market. No. Structural adjustment program. Fella said he was planning to go to the market. After he had done his plan and he wanted to go to the market, government plan came and everything was scattered. And that is what is going on now. Please, the last one, and I beg you, all of us, particularly the elite, we are not ashamed that the Nigerian currency is one of the worst in the world. Even Cotonou and Sefa is now higher than the Naira. Yes. Now, please, what do? We all gather here. Many of us have changed our money in the bank to dollars. Oh yeah, you are not aware there are certain schools in Nigeria and they charge dollars. Some houses in Ikoyi, Maitama, they charge rents in dollars. So everybody is looking for dollars. Even now in Abuja, to bribe now, they no longer take Naira, you bribe in dollars. Now please, all of us must sit down. Is this the country we want for ourselves? For delegates, you bribe delegates in dollars. Meanwhile, Section 20 of the CBN Act, Section 20 says, the legal tender in Nigeria shall be Naira. In fact, it's a criminal offense, Section 20 subsection 5, to spend dollars or any foreign currency in Nigeria. It's a criminal offense. And so, in order to help our country, because you can't dollarize an economy that is import-oriented, everything we get from abroad. The Chinese wanted to help Nigeria. They sat down with the central bank. Please, can we do what they call currency swap? Whatever you are buying in China, you can pay Naira. Whatever we are buying here, pay yuan. The West does not like it. So everybody must worship the dollars. So I am therefore saying, the greatest problem of majority and minority of poor people is poverty. When you are talking of ethnicity, you cover shame and you help the ruling class to cover up their iniquities. I'm therefore suggesting, in a debate on ethnicity, let us discuss the national question. Who gets what, when, and where? So that all the Yoruba members of the ruling class, all the members of the ruling class in Igbo land, in Hausa land, in Ibibio among others, we must now challenge them. What is the program to help the poor? For 2023, it's not enough to say go and vote. And don't talk about the president saying, no, for those of you in Lagos, in Anambra here, there are 40 legislators. Now we are only discussing the budget of Abuja. No state government in Nigeria, nowhere do we discuss the budget of our state government. The 774 local government have no budgets. So when you talk of Buhari and somebody wants to go to Abuja, let us start from below. If we can get the 40 people in Anambra to be responsible, our problems will have been reduced. Councillors, let us start. But what do we do? The elite, on the day of the election, we are watching television. So whether you like it or not, they will vote for themselves and install themselves for the next 4 or 8 years. I therefore beg you, this business of ethnicity and religion, let us put them aside and discuss the problems confronting Nigeria. Why are we not where we should be? If we address that, other things will fall in place. When you are talking about rotating power, good, but rotating power for what? What is the program that must be carried out when a Yoruba man goes to power or an Igbo man goes to power? If you just simply say rotate power without conditionalities, we are simply promoting injustice in our country. Because the people who want to rotate power, it's not about democracy. Do you understand what I mean? We are talking of the elite taking power alone. It's not about the poor. Majority of them, they say if you want to be a councillor or anything in Nigeria, you must have a school son. I mean, if we ask ourselves, what happens to 60 million illiterate Nigerians? Thank you very much.
Because he is so approachable, because of the fact that he breaks down our big issues using street language, using pidgin, and people sort of understand what he's saying, we underestimate the level of his genius when it actually comes to the music itself. And so, wherever he is, I want to tell him thank you for the music, for the consciousness, and for giving us Yeni and Shegun and Shegun and Femi. Thank you so much. Yeah. So I'm here to talk about elections, and to be honest with you, while I am hopeful about Nigeria, I keep worrying that we keep having the wrong conversations. Every 4 years, we go through this cycle of hope and despair. We get our hopes up that this election is going to give us this Messiah that is going to come and solve our problems, without looking at the fundamentals of the problems that we face. I was on the platform last week, and my whole speech revolved around unity of purpose. And I'm very happy that my big brother, Dr. Baba Ahmed, spoke a little bit about essentially identity politics. They're the scourge of this country. If identity politics were going to take us to where we should be in Nirvana. Post-independence, we were Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa. Before independence, post-independence, we became Yoruba, Igbo, and Hausa. And 60 years on, the politics has not changed. Because we do identity politics, we've managed to snatch defeat from the jaw of victory, or the other way that they put it. Why do I say this? We have everything we need to build a nation. Today we're still a country, and even that is becoming only in name. We have successfully built a place where a tiny percentage of people make and drive policy based on how much money it will put into private pockets. Not the public. education anymore based on how many people will go to school. Last week, NNPC discovered a pipe. Think about it, people. 4 kilometers long. Taking out thousands of barrels of petrol over the last 9 years. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. 9 years. And nobody in the police knew about it. Nobody in the Navy knew about it. Nobody in NNPC knew about it. They lie. They are liars. And while I think petrol is important, we talk about oil and gas, because I think that industry represents everything that is wrong about Nigeria. In looking at that industry, you get to understand why we have failed as a people. You enter the South, there's no drinking water. Fishing is not possible anymore because we've polluted their land. They can't farm. And yet, we say they shouldn't take up arms. And yet, we say they shouldn't complain. And yet, their oil money has been used to build all sorts across this country. How is that possible? But you see, it has nothing to do with the fact that they're a job. Because there are a job people chopping this oil money. That's the point I'm trying to make. That the thieves that we have in public office cut across all of Nigeria, so that people sell their own people in order to enrich themselves. You cannot tell me that what is happening in Igboni land is done without certain people from those parts being part of that problem. In Zamfara, my state, bandits are now lords. They are getting turbaned. They are receiving traditional title. All the research that has been done shows that they are working with people who are locals. They are informants. They tell them who to kidnap. They help them buy guns. They help them transport it. Nobody is thinking about regular people. Nobody's thinking about Nigeria, like he said. Everything that we do centers around how we personally can benefit. And truth be told, we're all guilty to a certain extent. We've accepted this system, and so what we try to do is to find a way to also benefit from it. I have a friend who's not paid taxes for 5 years. Auditors were sent to his business. It's a small business, it's not big. And he got a tax bill of 15 million. But he was offered the chance to pay 1 million and give 2 million in bribe, and he took it. And when he told me, I said, don't let me ever hear you open your mouth and say to me that Nigeria is bad or Nigeria is corrupt. Because you've just stolen from Nigeria. You might not have done it while sitting in public office, but you've just stolen from Nigeria. And so at different levels, we see this decay that has happened to our institutions, in everything. Even getting admission to university now depends on who you know, not the exams you've passed. And we somehow think we can build a country that way, a nation that way. It's not possible. And so today, I want to talk about elections, but before I do, I really want you to pay attention to what I call unity of purpose. We can't fight and kill ourselves and expect that somehow we will make progress. It is not possible. A house divided against itself cannot stand. Look, even if there are people in this room, let's assume there are some of us who don't believe in Nigeria anymore. We want Oduduwa, we want Biafra, we want Iowa. These sentiments are valid. The right to self-determination is sacrosanct. People should be able to say what they want for themselves. But how are you going to do it in any sort of structured way? You have to have unity. You must all agree that we want to test the fact that the people of the East want their own nation called Biafra. We want to give them a referendum. To do that, you need to get your National Assembly to build it into your constitution. You cannot do anything worthwhile without unity. It's become a dirty word in Nigeria. You know, when you talk about unity, someone like me in the north, I'm told, oh, it's because, you know, you are the ones benefiting from Nigeria, blah, 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 blah. Actually, no, I haven't benefited from Nigeria. My people are dying of hunger. They've been kidnapped. They can't go to their farms. So don't tell me I've benefited from Nigeria. My issues are very similar to the issues of the young man who's looking and thinking Biafra is his answer. And if Nigeria were functioning, my state would actually be extremely wealthy. Because we have gold, we have cobalt, we have farmland, we have all the things that are required to build a successful community. In fact, when I was growing up in Zamfara, and it wasn't a state at that time, the capital city called Gusau was part of wider Sokoto state. I will tell you what we had. We had a functioning rail line. We had Tata Light Sugar. We had John Holt. We had Michelin tires. We had ginneries that were extracting oil for export. We had tanneries that were treating skin and exporting it to Spain for leather. We had a really small, successful town that was very cosmopolitan because the rail lines also brought people from Ogbomoso who came and settled because it was a small trading town where you did cotton, you did leather, like I said, and a whole bunch of other things. So the Zamfara I grew up in is very different from the Zamfara that my children see when they go to visit their grandmother. But you see, my children also happen to be from Akure. So you see, for me, this issue of unity in Nigeria and why it matters is very personal. I have relationships across this country that are significant. And everywhere I travel, the story is the same. People want to be able to live in security. They want to be able to live in dignity. They want to be able to not have to suffer in order to feed their families. Men want to be head of families that walk into their homes with their head held high because they can feed their children. Because Nigeria is broken. We see it in big ways, we see it in small ways. We see it in the number of families that are now turning to their daughters to feed them, selling their body. We do these stories as journalists every day. And it is not an isolated case anymore. This is now the reality of the majority of our people. And you can't keep telling me that a Hausa resident who is busy jetting up and down with his children has anything in common with the children that I see in Zamfara who are not going to school, who are holding bowls begging for food. You can't. But when you go to do your politics, you lump all of us in the same category. And let me tell you, it's deliberate. There's nothing accidental about identity politics. It's that same divide and rule that the British used effectively that is being used against us. I find it shocking that we continue to fall for it. Even among the most educated among us, the language language now, the discourse, the conversation revolves around Muslim, Christian, Hausa, Fulani, Yoruba, Igbo. Why are we so stupid? If it was going to work, it would have worked. We've been doing it for 60 bloody years. Forgive my language. It hasn't given us the country that we want. Isn't it time to start thinking differently? And so, these elections are important because they could symbolize a turning point. But what I'm saying is that there are fundamentals that need to change. Otherwise, in 4 years, we're going to be here again, looking for another Messiah. They don't exist. They don't. What you have are people who should be prepared to hold the people they put into positions of authority accountable, regardless of where they come from. The whataboutism that happens in Nigerian politics is annoying. They arrest somebody, he has stolen money, and what about? And let them deal with that one, then they can get to the other one too. So I guess if there's anything I really want to say is that in going to the polls, it's really important to interrogate everybody that presents themselves. I think the greatest tragedy in this country is that we don't have internal party democracy. And so every time we go to the polls, the choices, in my view, are less than stellar. It's almost as if people are determined to give us the worst of Nigeria to lead us. And so we have to choose somebody who will come in and allow for the reforms that are required in the next 4 years. I believe in that. We now have legislation that has said local governments should be autonomous. We want the person who will allow that to come to being in the real sense, so that power is closer to the people. And we want a center that looks after the big things. So in talking to people who want to become president, please, can we focus on asking the questions that will help us determine whether they will have the political will to allow us the things that we need to do in order to make this country work. And I know we've kept to sort of focus on the presidency, but hey, your governors have power, serious power, and they have big money. If you look at the budgets and the way they are disbursed, you understand that actually it isn't fair to always blame everything on the center. So can you also focus on your state governors and the people you're putting in those positions? Because that too makes a huge difference to what happens in this country. God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
That has no ethnicity, no religion, no interest. Its interest is to continue to govern this country. And it's from all over the country. It's a group of Nigerians who understand the buttons to press. And they understand that they can only remain ruling class if we continue to fight each other on the basis of ethnicity. I'm obedient, I'm not obedient, I'm this and that. And any one of them gets into power, that's it. You never hear about them or what they do. So what's wrong? What happened to that Nigerian who could stand up and say, I want my rights? I had an occasion to speak to Nelson Mandela after he retired. And it has remained one of the most profound engagements for me. And he asked me a number of questions. He said, what happened to your country? You used to be such great people. Your country was the first country to give us £10 million to start the armed struggle in 1962. And we all looked up to Nigeria. We said Nigeria is going to lead the way to the Black Renaissance. Nigeria will set the standard for the Black race. And Nigeria will get the Black one to be respected wherever he comes from. We believed in you. He said, when I was in prison, people would visit me and I would ask them about the struggle in ANC. And then the next question would be, how's Nigeria doing? But I kept getting progressively worse reports. They said, in your country now, you can't be president unless you have a particular religion. In your country, you have to be from some part of the country to be there. And I remember your prime minister, that soft-spoken, very polished man who gave us money. They killed him. Now, Nigeria is known more for crime and corruption. What happened to you? He asked that question 6, 7, 8 times. What happened to you? And what happened to our country? Do we want it back? Should we get it back? Do we have an option to get it back? And who should get it back for us? Because clearly, nobody is going to walk out of this country the way some people think. If we don't get what we want, we'll just simply walk out. It won't happen. Because you don't really understand this country. Nobody is walking away. Certainly not cleanly. So who's going to fix this country? Politicians just want power. What do we want? How do we fix what is broken? How do we get young people to move from the fringes to the center? How do we make this issue about Nigerians? What's the young man there? The university students who have spent 8 months under an uncaring government that doesn't care. Their children, the children of the ruling class, don't attend universities in Nigeria. They go out. So if you close the universities down, 20 months, it doesn't make any difference. What do we do about the anger of young people? We saw it, EMSA's protest, and we saw the end of it. It's good to be angry, but you've got to organize and channel that anger to productive anger. Nigerians must be angry. And Mandela told me, why aren't Nigerians more angry than they are? There is a level of poverty which is not acceptable in Nigeria, in a country like Nigeria. There is a level of poverty and helplessness which is not acceptable. If it is not acceptable, then clearly we must do something about it. Why are we not teaching our young people history? Why are we not telling them that we were just these hopeless people just scurrying around trying to make a living from day to day? Why don't we tell them about great stories about great people classifying us as failed cases, failed countries? That's the real tragedy. So, 2023 is a turning point. It's an opportunity. It should not be a threat on our lives. It's a chance to rebuild the country. It's an opportunity to retrieve Nigeria. The little we can do as Northern Elders Forum is what we're going to do next week. We plan to sit with at least six of the leading candidates. Sit with them in a room and say, sir, put your plans on what you will do to fix Nigeria on the table. We want to look at it. We have some questions we want you to answer. What are you going to do about insecurity? What are you going to do about the economy? What are you going to do about the young, hungry people? What are you going to do about all this drift, all this hatred that we have for each other? How do you put Nigeria back on the global scale? How do you stop corruption? Tell us what you're going to do and show us the people you're going to do it with. Because we know you're not government. You're not going to govern alone. And we've got all the candidates to agree to come for this engagement. You don't turn up, we have only one answer for that. You have contempt for public opinion and the interest of stakeholders. But they will come. And we are saying to other groups, other parts of Nigeria, ask our leaders to tell you what they will do with their lives. Ask them what foundations they will lay for our children, our grandchildren. Now, if you are not satisfied, in the name of God, don't vote simply because of the ethnic identity and religious identity. Don't do it because you will be sacrificing the future of your child. Don't do it because Nigeria will not change. Don't do it because, believe me honestly, you would have missed a fantastic opportunity to turn this country around. Thank you very much, and I'm grateful for this.
And she gave me the name Ayodele. It's one of my names. It is symbolic of the tragic events in Nigeria. My father and my mother were in the foreign service at the time. My father was in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And shortly after I was born, about 3 months after, he went on his first posting to Geneva. Years later, the Civil War came and broke everybody apart. And so in the 70s, when we were in the East, and my parents were telling me this story, and I said, oh, but where is that auntie? My parents said, you know, the Civil War scattered everybody. And so it's a story about Nigeria. And let me tell you one more story about Nigeria before I go to the elections. There are many truths about this country. They stand side by side. The fact that some people are agitating, they have a reason why they are agitating. It is also a fact. But it is also a fact that there is far more that binds and unites us than we realize. And therefore that makes it true that many of the narratives that Kaderia talked about, that Hakeem talked about, are narratives woven by our politicians for their selfish interests. Many years ago, I lived in this town as a young graduate, working in Newswatch magazine in those days, as a lawyer and as a journalist. And I wanted to go abroad to study. And I got admission to the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy at Tufts University, one of the world's top graduate schools of international affairs. But the Naira had just been devalued in 1990. The school fees were $25,000. I could not afford it. And so I deferred the admission and started looking for money. Where did I go? Idumota. That was my natural. Where is the money? Some Igbo traders in Idumota. Perhaps they will help. I spoke to a few. Try. Congratulations. Business is hard, you know. Congratulations. This is a very big achievement, but business is hard. I got that about 10 times. I gave up. No help. An idea occurred to me. One man, I admired him from when I was very young. He was the Director General of the Institute of International Affairs in the early 70s. And I had read his CV, and he was an alumnus of the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy, where he took his master's, and then later went to Oxford and took his PhD. His name is Bolaji Akinwande. And I said, I took my pen and wrote to him. I said, here I am. I have an admission from your former school, and I'm looking for help. Can I come and see you I said, big man, he probably will read the letter and throw it into the dustbin. About 2 weeks later, I got a reply. Come and see me at so and so time in my office. I took a taxi and went. I didn't have a car. Arrived at his office. I had my CV. I was prepared. You know, there are some people when you meet them in life, it's one chance. You better be prepared. One chance. I had my CV. And I had a very neat dress. And he and I spoke for some time. And he looked at the CV and said, young man, you know, this is very impressive that at 27 you have achieved all this, you have an admission, and I don't have money. I cannot pay for your school fees. But there's something I will do. I will write to the school. And so he wrote to the school, short 2-paragraph letter, that every time I read that letter today, I still shed tears. Powerful letter of introduction saying this man will be a future leader in Nigeria and Africa. Give him a scholarship. About 2 months later, a letter arrived from the school with a scholarship. Wow! Covering my tuition, $25,000, and I was given a fellowship with a name. It was called the John Gillespie Fellow. That's what you will be. That's how I left the country. Because I was admitted to that school, when I wanted to go for my visa at the US Embassy, they said, what? You were admitted to the Fletcher School? Don't come, just send your papers. Don't come for interview. They stamped the visa and sent back my passport with a travel grant. That is my ticket to America. Now, this was done, all this was through somebody who was from a different part of the country. The people I first went to for help, and I thought that that was whence help would come. They were not so helpful. They were only congratulating me on my achievement. So this is lesson number 1. Lesson number 2. To cut a long story short, many of you know that I was Deputy Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria from 2009 to 2014. But many people may not know how that appointment came about. It came about at a World Economic Conference. I was in the United Nations. When I finished from the Fletcher School, I joined the UN and was in the UN for 17 years, went from entry level to the highest rank. And when I finished, I felt I was still young enough to have another career. I resigned and went into business as a consultant in risk management. And as a consultant, I attended the World Economic Forum in Cape Town to speak. And there, at my table, at the dinner, no prior knowledge, was a young man who was just 4 days old, having been confirmed by the Senate as the governor of the central bank. His name was Sanusi Lamido Sanusi, as of that time. Today is Muhammad Sanusi II. And so, when I saw him and we greeted each other, in my mind I said, wow, hopefully there will be business from this opportunity. And we thought, I gave him my brochure, and he spent most of the dinner reading the brochure. My wife kicked me under the table. I said, your friend is antisocial. He's not socializing, he's just reading your propaganda. Of course, she spoke to me in Igbo so that nobody will hear what she was saying. After some time, Sanusi closed the brochure. Wow. I'm like, what's going on? I was looking for business. So he said, no, don't answer. Sleep on it. Tomorrow let us have lunch. The next day we had lunch for 2 hours, and he explained his vision for the bank, the banking system, and he says, this opening in the bank, there are 4 deputy governors in the bank, this particular one will lead the implementation of all the reforms I have in mind. you fit the profile. So you can sit outside and be complaining and writing your articles in the Guardian, which I read sometimes, wonderful. Or you can come home with me and we do this thing together. And he says, I don't appoint deputy governors, the president does, appoints the governor and the deputy governor. So what I'm going to do is that I'll recommend you to Yaradua if you agree. But I know that it is whoever I recommend that he will appoint. I didn't know at that time what it meant to be a deputy governor of the central bank. I didn't know how many people were lobbying for this job. And I was there doing Yanga. And I'll ask him this question, he will answer. I'll ask him this question, he will answer. I asked him the salary, he told me some funny figure. I said, Lamida, that cannot work. I have a mortgage in Switzerland. I own a home from my lawful employment. This salary you're calling cannot pay that mortgage. He looked at me and laughed. He said, okay, first of all, let me tell you, we will do a reform of the salary. I know it's you. But all that is a long story. The point I'm trying to make is how I came back to the country after a long sojourn abroad to serve my country. 5 years at the bank, we did a lot of reforms under his ultimate leadership. I am grateful for that opportunity to have served this country, and I believe the record stands till today. And when I went into politics, after that service, I became a professor at the Fletcher School. Again, a great honor. While I was teaching there, and I looked at Nigeria, what was going on, I wasn't happy. I said, I will run for president. I came back and went into politics. If I had touched a penny while I was deputy governor of the central bank that did not belong to me, you would have heard about it. But because I didn't, I could say whatever I liked, to whoever I liked. Integrity. So the point is that we are not necessarily as divided as we think we are in this country. What has happened is that we lack unifying leadership. We lack what Cadre has identified as unity of purpose. And in 2023, we should be looking for a leader that will begin or rediscover the task of unifying this country and giving it a unity of purpose. Despite the diversity of religion or ethnic, it is possible for Nigeria to be united by something that rises above the things that divide us. That is what builds great nations, and it's called a world view, to use a big grammar. Look at every country of the world, the United States, France, Britain, to him. Eventually, he came around to that consensus. So the three of them agreed. That was the basis of the McPherson Constitution. Period. And that was the basis on which the 1960 Constitution of Nigeria made Nigeria a federal state. It's not an accident that the United States is a federation. It's not an accident that Australia, Germany, you name it, Brazil, big countries, India, with diverse populations. It's not an accident that they use a federal system of government, where power is devolved down to people and people can take charge of their destiny. And respect for the idea of being one country is represented in the fact that everybody will answer, we are Nigerians. And the federal government will be in charge of foreign affairs, in charge of defense and the armed forces, in charge of the central bank, in charge of immigration. 6, 7, 8 items that are universal to everybody that belongs to the country. The rest should go down to the local levels. But no, we discovered oil. That was one, but even before then, or after that, the military came and broke the consensus. And like somebody pointed out, who broke it? Heroes. The problem in this country is that we don't like to tell ourselves the truth. We all want to be victims. But we don't understand that the crisis in this country, we have all hurt one another. us start from that basis. If we start from that basis, we can heal. But instead, the narrative of our politics and the narrative of Nigeria, everybody wants to show how they are victims and the other people are villains. You don't make peace that way. I have been in the United Nations. I've been a peacemaker, a peace builder, and I know how to create a consensus to build a nation that has been broken by war and conflict. I did it in Rwanda, I did it in Croatia, I did it in Cambodia. I know what it means. And so when you're electing a president in 2023, let me conclude by saying something that might be a little bit controversial, but a fact. There are 4 functions of a president. The reason we have been making mistakes in elections is that we do not even know what the presidency itself, it's a job, just like any other job. It's not just a political promotion that you earn because you have been a governor, because you have been a senator. No matter your record, you are entitled to run for president. But Moghalu has not yet been elected governor or senate, so why should he aspire to be president? For as long as we're thinking like this, we're going nowhere. There are 4 functions. Number 1, national security. Number 2, nation building. Who can put Nigeria back together? Some people are putting the emphasis on their ability to unify the country when they are seeking power. We should hold their feet to the fire. Tell us exactly how. Tell us what you will do. Not to come and tell us and this and that. When you get in there, same old story. Sometimes you even look at what is happening now and you begin to wonder.
Thank you, sir.
You are tested now to practice that thing you're telling us, and we're watching. So, national security, nation building, which means unifying the country that is diverse and giving us unity of purpose as one nation, moving Nigeria from country to nation. And then the other meaning of nation building that people don't understand is building institutions that are strong and independent and effective. You cannot have democracy without 2 things. 1, an enlightened, empowered citizenry that knows the issues that need to be dealt with, and knows and should assess candidates according to those issues. If you don't have that, you don't have a democracy. So since we don't have that, let us tell ourselves the truth, that at best we are a semi-democracy. Number 2, you cannot have a democracy without independent institutions that uphold the rule of law. We don't increasingly have that in Nigeria today. We are hoping that INEC will show itself in 2023 an independent institution. In truth and in fact, we watch, we wait, we pray. So the 3rd requirement of the office of the president is managing the national economy. And the 4th is foreign affairs. 4 things. It doesn't go beyond. If you go and look at what the president does every day, it will come into one of these 4 things. But how many citizens understand what I've just said? No, the man has money. He has entourage. He has money. He has structure. That's why I think I should vote for him to be president. He is likely to win. Likely. So people vote for who they think are likely in their mind to win. They don't ask, if he wins, how will this change my life? No. They just want to be part of a bandwagon to nowhere. And that is what we've been on for 20 years. I would even venture to say that in the first tenure of Obasanjo, there was some effort. So, as we think about 2023, let us understand that we do not yet have the dividends of democracy, Let us understand that it is the task of all our political leaders to educate those they want to vote for them on the ideas that can change their lives and how they are the candidates that can bring those ideas into reality.
Thank you, sir.
The absence of ideas and ideology is a very big problem in Nigeria's politics. And if it is not solved in 2023, it will not be different from 2019, it will not be different from 2015 or 2011. This is the time to make the break. This is the time. So let us look for those with ideas. Let us look for those who are committed to a constitutional restructuring of Nigeria that can make Nigeria.
In case you are still undecided on who to vote for come 2023, I tell you, you can make that decision right away. Peter Obi is the right man for this job. Possibly you want to support your party, but I tell you, the mess Nigeria is in today, we are just looking for somebody to come and redeem us. So you should make up your mind in case you have not decided to vote for Peter Obi come 2023. Thank you and see you in my next video. Bye. Please subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it with your friends and family.